The desert cold bit through Lieutenant Kira Brennan's tactical gear like a living thing. 950 meters below her position, the compound sat in darkness, a sprawl of crumbling concrete that had seen too many wars. She pressed her cheek against the stock of her Macmillan TAC 338A, feeling the familiar weight of the rifle settle into her shoulder like an old friend. Through the Night Force scope, the world compressed into a circle of green-tinted clarity. "Wind's picking up," Senior Chief Dalton Wyatt murmured beside her. He held the spotting scope steady, his breath visible in the frigid air. 12 miles per hour, gusting to 15. Cross from your right. Kira made the adjustment without thinking. Her fingers moved across the turret with the precision of 2,000 training hours. Click, click. 3 minutes of angle. The reticle shifted, painting an invisible line through the dark to a second-story window where a shadow moved behind heavy curtains. Rashid Al-Hamadi, the chemist, the man who'd built the IED that killed 4 Marines in Raqqa, the man who'd trained a dozen others to do the same. "Target's moving toward the window," Dalton said. His voice carried the flat calm of a man who'd done this dance 100 times before. "Range holding at 950. Kiera's finger rested outside the trigger guard. Discipline. Control. The fundamentals her uncle had drilled into her since she was 12 years old, plinking cans off fence posts in Montana. Then she saw them. Thermal bloom in the basement window. 14 distinct signatures. 14 hostages the CIA said were there. 14 people huddled in the dark, waiting for death or rescue. The chemist appeared at the second-floor window, just his silhouette, just enough. "Hold," Dalton said. "Command wants confirmation on the device status." But Kira had already seen it. The chemist's hands moved in her scope, connecting wires to something strapped to his chest. The motion was unmistakable. She'd seen it in Mosul, Fallujah, Kandahar, Dead Man's Switch. If he goes down, the bomb goes off. But if she waited, if she followed protocol, if she let him finish his work. "Ghost, I said hold!" Dalton's voice carried an edge now. Kira's breathing slowed. Her heart rate dropped. The space between beats stretched into eternity. She felt the rifle become an extension of her body, the bullet already traveling in her mind, the arc of its flight written in wind and distance, and the cold mathematics of death. Her finger moved to the trigger. "Ghost, don't!" The rifle spoke. The .338 Lapua Magnum round cracked through the night with a sound like God tearing paper. Kira rode the recoil, kept her eye in the scope, watched the trace of the bullet paint a line through the dark. 1.4 seconds of flight time. The chemist's head snapped back. The window behind him starred with red. Then the world turned white. The explosion lifted the compound's roof into the air like a child's toy. Fire bloomed from every window. The shockwave rolled up the hillside, rattling Kira's teeth even at this distance. Through the scope, she watched the basement window where the hostages had been. Watched it collapse into rubble and flame. Watched 14 thermal signatures blink out like candles in the wind. "Jesus Christ," Dalton whispered. Kira's hands remained steady on the rifle. Her breathing remained controlled. But something inside her chest cracked and fell away, tumbling into a darkness that had no bottom. "Exfil," she said. Her voice sounded like someone else's. "We need to exfil, now." They gathered their gear in silence. Behind them, the compound burned like a funeral pyre for the dead, and for something else, something Kira couldn't name, but knew she'd never get back. Virginia Beach, Virginia, present day, Saturday, 15:45 hours. The rental cottage smelled like gun oil and regret. Kira sat cross-legged on the worn carpet, the disassembled Sig Sauer P226 spread before her in precise order. Slide, barrel, recoil spring, each piece cleaned and oiled with the same mechanical attention she'd given everything for the past 3 weeks. 3 weeks of mandatory leave. 3 weeks of waiting for the review board to decide if she was a hero or a war criminal. 3 weeks of seeing those 14 faces every time she closed her eyes. The cottage was small, 2 bedrooms, kitchen, a living room with furniture that had seen better decades, but it was a mile from Dam Neck Annex, close enough that she could see the SEAL Team 6 training compound from her morning runs, close enough to remember who she used to be, close enough to know she might never be that person again. She picked up the barrel, inspected the rifling in the afternoon light streaming through the window. Sunlight revealed every scratch, every imperfection, just like the review board would do to her service record, just like she did to herself every sleepless night. Unauthorized shot, catastrophic outcome, 14 civilians KIA. The official language made it sound clean, professional. It didn't capture the sound of the basement collapsing, didn't describe the smell of burning flesh that she'd never actually smelled, but imagined anyway. Every single night at 3:17, when her eyes snapped open in the dark. Her phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Robert in Montana. "Heard anything yet?" She typed back, "One more week." She didn't tell him about the nightmares. Didn't tell him that she'd already drafted her resignation letter, saved it on her laptop under a file labeled "The End." Robert Brennan had served with the Rangers in Grenada. He taught her to shoot, taught her discipline, taught her that service mattered. How could she tell him she was ready to quit? Kira reassembled the SIG with practiced efficiency. Slide onto frame, barrel into battery. The mechanical click of metal meeting metal was oddly comforting. Some things still fit together the way they were supposed to. She was reaching for the magazine when she heard it. Barking, desperate and high-pitched. The sound of an animal in distress. Then voices, male, young, laughing. Kiera moved to the window. The street outside was typical suburban Virginia. Modest houses, mature trees, American flags on every third porch. The kind of neighborhood where people knew their neighbors and complained about property taxes. Safe, quiet, boring. But running down the middle of the street, belly swollen with pregnancy, was a border collie mix. And behind the dog, gaining fast, were 4 young men. Kiera's training kicked in before conscious thought. She cataloged them in 2 seconds. Late teens to early 20s. Working class clothes. The leader wore a camouflage jacket despite the warm weather. 2 of them carried sticks. 1 was a baseball bat. The 4th was filming on his phone, jogging backward to keep the dog in frame. "Kill it," the leader shouted, and his voice carried the particular cruelty of someone who'd grown up believing the world owed him something. "Fucking kill it!" The dog ran with the awkward gait of late pregnancy, each stride labored. But there was determination in the animal's movement. Purpose. The dog wasn't running randomly. It was running toward Kiera's cottage. Time compressed. The dog crossed into her yard. The men followed, laughing, filming. The leader swung his bat in a practice arc. The dog scrambled up the 3 steps to Kiera's porch and began scratching at her door. Kiera moved without deciding to move. Her hand was already on the doorknob, already pulling it open. The dog bolted inside, pressed itself against the back of Kiera's legs, panting and shaking. The 4 men stopped at the base of her porch steps. Up close, they were younger than she'd thought. The leader couldn't be more than 22. His camouflage jacket was too clean, the kind bought at a surplus store for fashion rather than function. His face carried the soft edges of someone who'd never missed a meal or faced real consequences. "That's our dog," he said. He held the baseball bat loosely, like it was an extension of his swagger rather than a weapon. "Hand it over." Kiera stood in the doorway, blocking the entrance with her body. Behind her, the dog pressed against her calves, still trembling but quiet now, waiting. "No," Kiera said. The word hung in the air like a challenge. The leader's face went through a series of expressions. Surprise, confusion, then anger settling in like weather. "Bitch, you don't know who you're dealing with." Kiera looked at him with cold calculation. He was 6'1", maybe 195, strong from physical labor rather than training. The way he held the bat revealed no formal instruction. The other three were backing him up, but their body language was uncertain. Followers, not fighters. All four wore bulges under their shirts that suggested firearms. But poor concealment meant poor training. If this went kinetic, she could neutralize all four in under 10 seconds. But it wouldn't come to that. It never did when you showed you were willing. You should leave, Kira said. Her voice was flat, factual. Now. The leader laughed. Or what? You gonna? He took a step up onto the porch. It was the permission Kira needed. She moved forward to meet him, using the doorframe as leverage. When his hand came up, whether to shove her or the bat or both, it didn't matter. She was already inside his reach. Her left hand locked onto his wrist with a grip strengthened by 1,000 pull-ups. Her right hand found the pressure point below his elbow. Simple mechanics. Leverage. Physics. The leader's knees hit the porch with a sound like a hammer striking wood. His face expressed pure shock. The bat clattered away. "Kyle!" one of the others shouted. The one called Kyle, young, maybe 19, acne scars on his cheeks, pulled a folding knife from his pocket. 4-inch blade, legal to carry, illegal to deploy in threat. "You really want to do that?" Kira asked. She still held the leader's wrist, keeping him on his knees with minimal effort. Kyle's hands shook. The knife shook with it. "Holy shit," the one with the phone said. He'd stopped filming, was staring at Kira like he'd seen a ghost. "Holy shit, that's Lieutenant Brennan." The name hit the air like a grenade. "That's the SEAL who got the Navy Cross," the kid continued, his voice pitching higher. "I saw it on the news. She's the one who—" "I don't give a fuck," the leader snarled from his knees. But his voice had lost its certainty. "My brother's gonna hear about this. My brother's Garrett Harlow, Sentinel Solutions, former Delta Force." Kira felt something cold slide down her spine. Sentinel Solutions. She knew that name. Every operator in JSOC knew that name. Private military contractor. The kind that operated in gray zones where laws bent and broke. The kind that recruited from special operations forces and then shed the rules of engagement like dead skin. The kind her community didn't talk about in public, but watched carefully in private. She released the leader's wrist. He scrambled backward, nursing his arm. "Tell him to come himself," Kira said. The leader's face twisted with something between fear and rage. "You're dead, bitch. You hear me? Dead." "I hear you," Kira said. "Now leave." They backed away, all four of them, but Kyle grabbed a rock from her garden as they retreated. He threw it with the wild inaccuracy of someone who'd never been taught to aim. The rock punched through her living room window with a crystalline crack. Then they were running, climbing into a lifted pickup truck that belched black smoke as it peeled away. Kira watched until the truck disappeared around the corner. Only then did she look down at the dog. Border Collie mix, maybe 50 pounds under all that pregnancy weight, brown and white coat matted with dirt and worse. The dog looked up at her with eyes that held intelligence and exhaustion in equal measure. Kira knelt slowly, extended her hand. The dog sniffed, then pressed its head into Kira's palm with a sound halfway between a whine and a sigh. "You picked the right door," Kira said softly. She ran her hands over the dog's body, checking for injuries. That's when she found them. Small, circular scars on the paws. Cigarette burns. Old ones healed over. And newer ones that were still pink. Something hot and sharp moved through Kira's chest. She'd killed 47 people in her career as a SEAL sniper. 47 targets who'd threatened American lives or American interests. She'd done it with precision and without hesitation because that was the job. That was the mission. That was what the trident on her uniform demanded. But this, torturing a pregnant animal for entertainment, this was different. This was cruelty for cruelty's sake. This was evil wearing a human face. "Come on," Kira said, standing. "Let's get you checked out." The dog followed her inside without hesitation. Kira closed the door, locked it, and moved to the window to look out at the street. Empty. Quiet. The broken glass sparkled on her floor like diamonds. She pulled out her phone and called the only veterinarian number saved in her contacts. Dr. Helen Grant, Air Force veteran, retired. She'd treated Kira once for a dog bite during a training exercise, and they'd bonded over shared service and shared silences about the things they'd seen. Dr. Grant, the voice answered on the second ring. It's Kira Brennan. I need your help. What happened? I've got a pregnant border collie. Signs of long-term abuse. She needs examination. A pause. Then, address? Kira gave it. 20 minutes, Dr. Grant said, and hung up. Kira set the phone down and looked at the dog, who'd settled onto the carpet near the disassembled cleaning supplies. The animal's eyes were already closing, exhaustion winning over fear. You need a name, Kira said. The dog's ear twitched. In SEAL training, they drilled the phonetic alphabet until it became second nature. Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, the universal language of clear communication under stress. Echo, the word meant repetition, a sound reflected back, a second chance to hear something you'd missed the first time. Kira thought about Syria, about the shot she'd taken, about the echo of that explosion still reverberating in her skull 4 months later. Echo, she said, that's your name. The dog's tail thumped once against the carpet. Kira moved to her laptop, opened it, typed Garrett Harlow, Sentinel Solutions, into the search bar. The results loaded. She clicked through them with growing unease. Garrett Harlow, 34 years old, former 1st Special Forces Operational Detachment Delta, the Army's most elite unit, the counterpart to SEAL Team 6, served multiple deployments in Iraq and Afghanistan between 2009 and 2019. Dishonorable discharge, 2019. Details sealed. But Kira knew how to read between lines, knew what kind of actions led to sealed records and dishonorable discharges for Delta operators. The kind of actions that civilian courts might call war crimes. She scrolled further, found a website for Sentinel Solutions, corporate language about security consulting and risk management, photos of men in tactical gear that was just civilian enough to be legal, but military enough to be threatening. Then she found a photo that made her breath catch. Garrett Harlow at some kind of conference, 2018, according to the caption. He stood beside a man in traditional Syrian dress. The man's face was turned partially away from the camera, but Kira recognized the profile. She'd seen it through a rifle scope. She'd watched it snap backward when the bullet struck. The chemist. Garrett Harlow had known Rashid al-Hamadi personally. Kira sat back, her mind racing through implications and connections. Coincidence was possible. The military and contractor world was smaller than people thought. You crossed paths with people. You did business with people. Not everything connected. But her training said otherwise. Her instincts, the same instincts that had kept her alive through 6 combat deployments, screamed that this was not random. The bullies, the dog, the confrontation on her porch, the mention of Garrett Harlow's name. She was being watched, evaluated, tested. But why? Her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Senior Chief Dalton Wyatt. She answered. Dalton. Ghost. His voice carried the same steady calm it always did, but something underneath had an edge. You okay? Why wouldn't I be? Because I just got a call from a JSOC contact. Someone ran a background check on you through military databases. Professional grade. Not police, not FBI. Private. Kira felt her jaw tighten. When? 2 hours ago. Around the same time you had an incident with some locals? So they were already moving, already gathering information. I'm fine, Kira said. Just some kids harassing a dog. I intervened. These kids got a name? The leader's brother is Garrett Harlow. Silence on the line. Long enough that Kira checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. Dalton? Garrett Harlow. His voice had gone flat. Yeah, I know him. Tell me. Not over the phone. I'm coming down. Don't do anything stupid. I won't. Kira. He used her real name, which he never did. I mean it. Garrett Harlow is not someone you engage with. He's got no rules, no conscience. He's what happens when you take all the training and strip away everything that makes us different from the enemy. Understood. I'll be there in 2 hours. Stay inside. Stay low. The line went dead. Kiera set the phone down and looked at Echo, who'd fallen asleep on her carpet. The dog's sides rose and fell with each breath, the puppy's insides shifting and pressing against her ribcage. Kiera thought about the chemist. 14 hostages. A decision made in a fraction of a second that would haunt her for the rest of her life. She thought about Garrett Harlow, about sealed records and dishonorable discharges, about torture and cruelty given free rein. She thought about the look in that young man's eyes when he'd thrown the rock through her window, the confidence of someone who'd never faced consequences. Tomorrow she'd follow orders. She'd stay inside. She'd let Dalton come, and they'd figure this out together, with planning and caution and all the things that made the difference between professionals and amateurs. But tonight, right now, sitting in her rental cottage with a rescued dog and a growing sense that the universe was pulling her towards something she couldn't yet see, Kira Brennan made a different decision. She wasn't going to wait for the review board to decide her future. She wasn't going to hide in this cottage while someone decided whether she was worth keeping. She was going to find out what Garrett Harlow was doing in Virginia. She was going to find out why his brother was torturing animals. She was going to find out if that photograph with the chemist meant what she thought it meant. And if Garrett Harlow came for her, came to prove some point or deliver some message or exact some revenge for the man she killed in Syria, well, she'd left her rifle in the armory at Dam Neck, but she still knew how to shoot. 22:30 hours. The sound of engines woke her. Kira had dozed off on the couch, Echo curled at her feet. Dr. Grant had come and gone, pronouncing the dog healthy but malnourished, due to give birth in 4 to 5 days, and in need of rest and safety more than anything medical could provide. Now 3 vehicles pulled up outside her cottage. SUVs, black, expensive, the kind with bulletproof glass and run-flat tires. Kira was on her feet before she'd fully processed waking. Her hand found the Sig Sauer P226 she'd left on the coffee table. She chambered around, moved to the window. 8 men climbed out of the vehicles. They moved with the fluid precision of military training, professional spacing, awareness of fields of fire, hands near concealed weapons, and leading them, stepping out of the middle SUV like a general surveying a battlefield, was Garrett Harlow. He was taller than his brother, 6'3", easy, built like someone who'd spent 20 years turning his body into a weapon. Sleeve tattoos covered both arms, military unit patches and dates that Kira recognized. Jump wings, Ranger tab, Special Forces crest, all the markers of a man who'd once been one of America's finest. He looked directly at her window, smiled, then walked up to her door and knocked. 3 solid strikes, confident, unhurried. Kira moved to the door, keeping the Sig concealed in her waistband. She opened it but stayed in the doorframe, controlling access. "Lieutenant Brennan," Garrett said. His voice was smooth, educated, nothing like his brother's crude aggression. "Or should I call you Ghost? I understand that's your call sign. Who are you?" "You know who I am. My idiot brother made sure of that." He glanced past her into the cottage. "Is that my dog?" "Your dog is sleeping, recovering from the cigarette burns someone gave her." Garrett's expression didn't change. "My brother's an idiot. I already said that, but he's still my brother. That's not my problem." "No." Garrett's smile widened slightly. "Your problem is more interesting than that." He pulled out a phone, swiped through it, then turned the screen toward her. Photos, interior shots of her cottage, the living room from multiple angles, the bedroom, the bathroom, all taken recently, all taken from inside. Her cottage had been compromised. You broke into my home, Kira said. Her voice remained level, despite the rage building in her chest. Security assessment, Garrett said. We do that for clients, see their vulnerabilities, help them understand what they're up against. I'm not your client. No, you're not. He put the phone away. You're Lieutenant Kira Brennan, Navy SEAL, DevGru, 47 confirmed kills as a sniper, most recent being Rashid al-Hamadi, the chemist. You killed him 4 months ago in Syria with a shot at 950 from elevated position. Unauthorized shot. Under investigation. The way he recited it made Kira's skin crawl. This wasn't public information. This was access from classified databases. You knew him, she said. The chemist. I saw the photo. Business associate. He had particular skills. I connected him with people who needed those skills. It was profitable. Garrett's eyes were the color of winter ice. You cost me $4 million in contracts when you killed him. He was building bombs that killed Americans. He was building bombs for whoever paid. I respected that. Professional to professional. Garrett stepped closer. His men maintained their positions but tensed, ready. You're military. You follow orders. But you also break them when it suits you. That shot in Syria, that was unauthorized. You went against command. 14 hostages died because you couldn't wait. The words hit like physical blows. Kira's hand moved toward her concealed weapon. Easy, Garrett said. I'm not here to kill you. Yet. I'm here to give you a choice. What choice? You resign from the Navy. You leave Virginia. You disappear quietly. He pulled out his phone again, showed her more photos. Or accidents happen. House fires. Training accidents back on base. People die, and no one asks too many questions because you're already under investigation, already compromised, already on your way out. Kira looked at the photos, then at Garrett, then at his 8 men, all watching, all ready. She thought about Syria, about making the shot even when ordered to wait, about how that decision had defined her ever since. She thought about Echo, sleeping inside, carrying puppies that deserved a chance at life without torture. She thought about 47 confirmed kills and the weight of that number, and she made her decision. You made a mistake coming here, Kira said. Garrett laughed. You're alone, under investigation, no backup. What are you going to do? I'm going to find out what you're really planning, Kira said. Then I'm going to stop it. Good luck with that, Ghost. He turned to leave, then paused. You have 48 hours to leave town. After that, I can't guarantee your safety, or your mother's. The last part landed like a bullet. My mother lives in Florida. I know. Nice condo, good security, but not good enough. He smiled. 48 hours, Lieutenant. Make the right choice. The vehicles pulled away, engines rumbling into the night. Kira locked the door, moved through the cottage, checking every room, found 3 hidden cameras, one in the living room, one in the bedroom, one in the kitchen. Professional grade, wireless, recently installed. She left them in place. If Garrett was watching, let him watch. Let him think he had the advantage. The best way to catch a predator was to make them believe they were the hunter. She pulled out her phone, called Dalton. I'm on my way, he said before she could speak. 90 minutes. He came here. Garrett Harlow. Silence. He threatened my mother, Kira said, and he knew about Syria. Details. Classified details. I'm bringing Jackson Hale with me. SEAL Team 3. Good operator. We figure this out together. Dalton. 48 hours, Ghost. We can do a lot in 48 hours. He hung up. Kira looked at Echo, still sleeping peacefully despite the violence and threats swirling around them both. Outside, the Virginia night pressed against the windows. Somewhere out there, Garrett Harlow was planning something that involved her, something that connected to Syria and the chemist and $4 million in lost contracts, something that would come for her whether she was ready or not. Kira checked her watch. 23:47 hours. 48 hours until Garrett's deadline. 6 days until the review board hearing. 1 week until she found out if she'd lost everything she'd worked for since she was 18 years old. But none of that mattered right now. Right now, she had a pregnant dog to protect, a threat to neutralize, and 47 confirmed kills that said she knew how to handle herself when the world went dark and violent. She assembled her Sig Sauer one more time, loaded a fresh magazine, set it within reach. Then she sat down at her laptop and began researching everything she could find about Garrett Harlow, Sentinel Solutions, and the network of contractors who'd turned their military training into something else entirely. The ghost was hunting now, and ghosts, by nature, were very hard to see coming. Sunday morning, 6:47 hours. The sun broke over Virginia Beach in shades of copper and steel. Kira had been awake for 3 hours already, her laptop screen casting pale light across her face as she worked through everything she could find on Garrett Harlow and Sentinel Solutions. The coffee had gone cold an hour ago. She drank it anyway. Echo stirred on the couch beside her, stretching with the careful deliberation of late pregnancy. The dog's eyes opened, found Kira, and relaxed again. Trust, despite everything the animal had endured. Kira envied that capacity for trust. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dalton. 15 minutes out. She stood, stretched muscles tight from sitting, and moved to the window. The street was quiet. Sunday morning in suburban America. Sprinklers, newspaper deliveries, the illusion of safety. But she'd found Garrett's surveillance teams during her 3-hour vigil. 2 vehicles. One parked 4 houses down with a clear view of her front door. Another at the intersection with line of sight to her driveway. They rotated shifts at 0400 hours like professionals. Not sloppy, not obvious unless you knew what to look for. Kira had spent 6 years learning what to look for. A silver pickup truck turned onto her street, not Dalton's vehicle. She tensed until she recognized the driver through the windshield. Senior Chief Dalton Wyatt looked exactly like he always did. Broad shoulders, iron gray hair cut to military precision, eyes that missed nothing. Beside him sat a younger man with sandy hair and the rangy build of a distance runner. Jackson Hale. She'd heard of him. SEAL Team 3. Good reputation. Solid operator who'd taken a bullet through the knee in Baghdad and spent the last 6 months in rehab. They parked in her driveway, walked to her door with the casual awareness of men who'd spent careers in hostile environments. Dalton knocked twice. Kira opened the door. "You're being watched." "I know," Dalton said. Gray sedan 4 houses down, black SUV at the intersection. Sloppy positioning. They want us to know they're there. He stepped inside. Jackson followed, gave Kira a nod of greeting. "Lieutenant," Jackson said. "Just Kira. I'm on leave." "We're all on leave," Dalton said. He looked at Echo, who'd raised her head from the couch. "That the dog?" "That's Echo." "Garrett Harlow came here because of a dog?" "Garrett Harlow came here because I killed his business partner." Kira moved to her laptop, turned it so they could see the screen. Rashid Al-Hamadi, the chemist. "I found photos of them together at a conference in 2018. They knew each other, did business together." Dalton studied the screen. His jaw tightened. "You're sure? Look at the body language, the way they're standing. That's not strangers making small talk. That's rapport." Jackson leaned in closer. "Sentinel Solutions operates in legal gray zones. If Harlow was facilitating connections between bomb makers and clients, that crosses into something federal." "FBI surveillance?" Kira asked. "I made calls last night," Dalton said. He pulled out a small notebook, flipped it open. "Sentinel Solutions is on multiple watch lists. DEA thinks they're moving money for cartels. FBI, counterterrorism suspects they're facilitating domestic extremist groups. But nothing concrete enough for warrants." "How long have they been watching?" 8 months. moving slowly, building the case. Dalton looked up from his notebook. But here's what concerns me. I talked to a contact at JSOC. The chemist network has been quiet since you took him out, until 3 weeks ago. Kira felt something cold settle in her stomach. What happened 3 weeks ago? Intercepted communications mentioned ghost, your call sign. Multiple references. The translation team thinks it's revenge rhetoric. Someone wants payback for the chemist. And I conveniently show up on leave, Kira said. Under investigation. Vulnerable. Not convenient, Jackson said. His voice was quiet but certain. Deliberate. They're watching you. Testing you. The dog incident yesterday? That was Garrett's brother acting as a probe. See how you respond. See if you're still operational despite being under review. Kira thought about the confrontation on her porch. The way Trent Harlow had pushed just hard enough to provoke a response, but not hard enough to justify lethal force. The way he'd mentioned Garrett's name like a threat and a lure. I'm bait, she said. You're a target, Dalton corrected, but also leverage. They want something bigger than just killing one SEAL sniper. Like what? Dalton exchanged a look with Jackson. Something passed between them, the kind of silent communication that came from shared experience in dark places. There's a SEAL Team 6 reunion next Saturday, Jackson said. Virginia Beach Convention Center. 300 operators and their families, politicians, media. It's a big deal. Celebrating 50 years since the unit's founding. The implications hit Kira like a physical blow. 300 SEALs. In one location. High-profile target. Maximum symbolic impact. They're going to hit the reunion, she said. FBI thinks so, Dalton confirmed, but they don't have specifics. No proof of imminent threat, just surveillance and suspicion. They can't cancel a major public event based on suspicion. So we give them proof, Kira said. That's the idea. Dalton moved to her window, looked out at the surveillance teams. But we can't do this officially. You're under investigation. I'm regular team guy. Jackson's on medical leave. We've got no authority here. Since when did that stop SEALs from operating? Jackson asked. Dalton smiled, but there was no humor in it. Since the lawyers got involved. But you're right. We don't need authority. We need evidence. Something concrete enough that FBI can't ignore. Kira's mind was already working through the tactical problem. Garrett came to my door last night, threatened me, gave me 48 hours to leave town. That means whatever he's planning, the timeline is tight. 6 days until the reunion, Jackson said. If he wants you gone in 2 days, that gives him 4 days to set up without worrying about JSOC's best sniper interfering. Then we don't give him 4 days, Kira said. We draw him out, force his hand, make him show us what he's planning. How? Dalton asked. Kira looked at Echo, then back at the 2 SEALs in her living room. He thinks I'm vulnerable, under investigation, alone, rattled. Let's prove him right. Make him think he's won. Make him overconfident. You want to be bait for real, Jackson said. I want to be the bait that has teeth. Dalton was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Then he nodded. Okay, but we do this smart. No cowboy shit. We follow you. Document everything. Build the case while keeping you alive. I can live with that. Can you? Dalton's eyes were steady on hers. Because once we commit to this, there's no calling time out. These aren't training exercises. Garrett Harlow doesn't have rules of engagement. He will kill you if he gets the chance. Kira thought about Syria, about taking a shot she wasn't authorized to take, about 14 hostages who died because she couldn't wait. I know, she said, but I'm done waiting. They spent the next 2 hours planning. Kira would maintain her normal routine, but make herself visible. Go for runs, visit the grocery store, give Garrett's surveillance teams multiple opportunities to make a move. Meanwhile, Dalton and Jackson would conduct counter-surveillance, track the watchers, identify Sentinel Solutions' operational base. They're running this from somewhere local, Jackson said, studying a map of Virginia Beach on Kira's laptop. Contractors need warehouse space, secure communications, vehicle storage, somewhere they can prep without drawing attention. Industrial district, Dalton suggested. Near the port, lots of legitimate security companies in that area, easy to blend in. That's where I'd set up, Kira agreed. She marked several locations on the map. We start there, but carefully. If they spot us surveilling them, they'll know we're onto them. Ghost, Dalton said, using her call sign deliberately. Once you step outside that door, you're committed. You sure about this? Kira looked at him. 20 years in the teams. A man who'd seen every kind of darkness and still showed up every day to fight it. A man who'd been beside her in Syria, who'd told her to hold, who'd watched her take the shot anyway. I'm sure, she said. Then let's go to work. Dalton and Jackson left first. They'd circle the neighborhood, identify Garrett's watchers, then head to the industrial district to start searching for Sentinel Solutions' base of operations. Kira would wait 30 minutes, then begin her part of the operation. She used the time to prepare, changed into running gear, checked her Sig Sauer, confirmed the round in the chamber. Couldn't carry it openly while running, but she could slip it into a concealed holster under her loose shirt. Not comfortable, not ideal, but better than nothing. She also pulled out a small electronic device from her go bag, a tracker, military grade, the kind SEAL teams use for high-value target surveillance. She'd signed one out months ago for training and never returned it. Now she sewed it into the lining of her running jacket with quick, efficient stitches. If they grabbed her, Dalton would know where they took her. Echo watched from the couch with soulful eyes. Stay safe, girl, Kira said. I'll be back. At 1400 hours, Kira stepped out of her cottage and began to run. The surveillance teams picked her up immediately. She felt their attention like heat on her back. The gray sedan started its engine. At the intersection, a different vehicle, a white panel van, pulled out to follow. Good. They were committed. Kira ran her normal route, through the neighborhood, past the elementary school, along the path that bordered the wetlands preserve. 3 miles out, 3 miles back. The same route she'd run every day for 3 weeks. Predictable, vulnerable, exactly what she wanted them to see. At the 2-mile mark, the path entered a wooded section. Trees on both sides, minimal visibility, the perfect place for an interdiction. Kira felt her heart rate increase, and not from the running. The white panel van accelerated, came up alongside her on the service road that paralleled the path, slowed to match her pace. The side door slid open, 4 men inside, all wearing tactical gear, all professional. Keep running, one of them said. He held a weapon, not pointed at her, but ready. Don't make this difficult. Kira kept running, calculated distances, 4 men in the van, at least 1 driver, 5 total, all trained, all armed. Bad odds for direct confrontation, but she wasn't here to fight. She was here to be taken. Lieutenant Brennan, the man said, we can do this easy or we can do this hard. Your choice. What do you want? Kira asked. She let her voice sound frightened, confused, not the voice of a SEAL operator, but of a woman caught off guard. Just a conversation. Mr. Harlow wants to talk. I already talked to him. Then this is the follow-up meeting. The van swerved suddenly, cutting in front of her. Kira had to stop or collide with it. Before she could react, 2 men jumped out. Professional. Fast. They had her arms before she could draw her concealed weapon. She didn't resist. Let them think she was overwhelmed. Let them think they had control. A hood went over her head. Darkness. Flex cuffs secured her wrists. Not too tight. They didn't want to leave marks. Didn't want evidence of rough handling. Professional. Careful. Experienced at this. They lifted her into the van. The door slid shut. The vehicle accelerated. Under the hood, Kira began counting. Timing. Tracking the route by feel and sound. 18 minutes of driving. 6 turns. 3 stops, traffic lights. she guessed from the gradual deceleration. Final approach on rough pavement suggesting industrial area. Vehicle bay doors opening, the distinctive metal rumble. Inside a warehouse. The van stopped. Doors opened. Hands guided her out. She stumbled deliberately, playing the role of disoriented civilian. They walked her maybe 40 feet. Sound changed. They'd entered a smaller space within the larger building. Office, probably. Concrete floor became carpet. Temperature dropped. Air conditioning. The hood came off. Kira blinked in the sudden light, took in her surroundings with the trained observation of someone who'd spent years making life or death decisions based on environmental assessment. Warehouse office, 20 by 20 feet, metal desk, filing cabinets, monitors on one wall showing security camera feeds. She glimpsed the exterior of the building, loading docks, interior corridors, professional setup, well organized, and sitting behind the desk, perfectly relaxed, was Garrett Harlow. "Lieutenant Brennan," he said, "thank you for joining us." The flex cuffs were cut from her wrists. The men who'd brought her took positions around the room. 6 total now, including the ones who'd been in the van. All armed. All watching her with the flat attention of people who killed for a living. "Kidnapping a federal employee," Kira said. She kept her voice level. "That's 20 years minimum. Only if someone reports it." Garrett stood, moved around the desk. "And you won't be able to." He was taller up close, more physically imposing. But Kira had faced down enemy combatants in Ramadi and Kandahar. Size didn't intimidate her. Intent did. And Garrett's intent was written in every line of his body. "The chemist people want you dead," Garrett said. "Slowly, painfully. They want to make an example, show other American operators what happens when you interfere with their business." "Business," Kira repeated. "You mean terrorism." "I mean commerce. Money flowing from point A to point B. I facilitate that flow. What the buyers do with the products isn't my concern. You helped ISIS build bombs. I connected skilled labor with capital investment. Free market economics." Garrett smiled. "But we're not here to debate philosophy. We're here because you killed Rashid al-Hamadi, and that created problems for me." "4 million in lost contracts," Kira said. "You mentioned that. It's not about the money. Well, not entirely." Garrett pulled out his phone, swiped through it. "It's about reputation. In my line of work, reputation is currency. When you killed the chemist, you made me look unreliable, like I couldn't protect my associates. That's bad for business." He turned the phone toward her. Photos. Dalton and Jackson in Dalton's truck. Clear surveillance photos taken within the last hour. "Your friends are watching this warehouse right now," Garrett said. "They think they're being clever. Counter-surveillance. Building a case. Very professional." Kira's stomach dropped, but she kept her face neutral. "When they come to rescue you," Garrett continued, "my men will kill them. 2 more SEAL Team 6 operators. That'll send a message. You're going to start a war with JSOC. I'm going to remove 3 problems before the main event." The way he said it made Kira's blood run cold. "What main event?" Garrett studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, and the smile was worse than any threat. "The reunion," he said. "Saturday, 300 SEALs, families, politicians, media coverage. The biggest gathering of Tier 1 operators since the Bin Laden raid. You're going to attack it. I'm going to facilitate an attack. There's a difference. I provide logistics, security assessment, equipment. The actual operation is handled by my clients. The chemist network. What's left of it? You did them quite a bit of damage in Syria. But damaged things can be repaired, rebuilt, made stronger." Garrett sat on the edge of his desk. "Truck bomb outside the convention center. Multiple suicide vests inside. Coordinated assault team. We're estimating 70% casualties in the first 2 minutes. Then it becomes a hostage situation. By the time law enforcement organizes a response, most of your community will be dead." Kira felt the room spinning. 70% of 300 people, over 200 casualties, families, children, the entire core of SEAL Team 6 command structure. "You'll never get away with this," she said. "I'm not trying to get away. I'm trying to send a message." Garrett leaned forward. "America has been killing people in the Middle East for decades. Drone strikes, night raids, special operations. You've made enemies, Lieutenant, lots of them. And they're not interested in fighting on battlefields anymore. They're bringing the war here." "You're American," Kira said. "Delta Force." You swore an oath. "I fulfilled my oath for 10 years. Then my country decided that protecting civilian terrorists was more important than protecting soldiers. So I found new clients, ones who pay better and don't second guess." He stood, moved closer to her, close enough that she could smell his cologne, close enough to attack if she wanted to start something she couldn't finish. "You made a bad call in Syria," Garrett said softly. "Took a shot you weren't authorized to take. 14 hostages died. Now you'll die knowing hundreds more will follow. And unlike you, I won't feel any guilt about it." The psychological warfare was working. Kira felt Syria pressing down on her, felt the weight of those 14 deaths, felt the crushing certainty that she'd been right about one thing. Taking that shot had changed everything. But it had also taught her something. Sometimes the unauthorized shot was the only shot. Sometimes waiting for permission meant everyone died. "You made 3 mistakes," Kira said. Garrett raised an eyebrow. "Oh? Enlighten me." "First, you assumed I came alone. Dalton Wyatt and Jackson Hale, we're ready for them. Second, you brought me here alive, so I could watch you die scared. Third," Kira said, and let the fear drop from her voice like a shed skin, "you put me in a room with 6 men and didn't search me properly." Her hand moved before anyone could react. The Sig Sauer cleared her concealed holster in one smooth motion. She'd practiced that draw 10,000 times, made it muscle memory, made it faster than thought. The first shot took the guard nearest her in the throat. Center mass would hit body armor. Throat was soft tissue. Catastrophic damage. He went down. The second and third shots, double tap, controlled pairs, exactly like training, dropped the guard by the door. Then chaos erupted. The remaining guards drew weapons. Garrett dove behind his desk. Someone shouted orders. Return fire lit up the office with muzzle flashes in the ear-splitting crack of gunfire in enclosed space. Kira was already moving. Behind the metal filing cabinet, inadequate cover, but better than nothing. She had 15 rounds total. Just used 3. 12 remaining against 4 hostiles plus Garrett. Bad odds, but she'd faced worse. A guard came around the cabinet, rifle up. Kira shot him in the face. Point blank. No choice. No hesitation. 11 rounds left. "Secure the exits," Garrett shouted. "Don't let her leave this building." Gunfire raked the filing cabinet. Bullets punched through metal like paper. Kira felt the heat of near misses. Felt one round tug at her sleeve without breaking skin. She returned fire. 2 shots. Suppressive. Make them think about cover instead of shooting. 9 rounds. The math was bad. She was outgunned, outnumbered, in an unknown facility with no clear escape route. But she had one advantage they didn't expect. She wasn't trying to escape. She was trying to buy time. And exactly on schedule, the building's main entrance exploded inward with the distinctive crack of breaching charges. Flashbangs followed. White light, pressure wave, overwhelming sensory assault. Through the chaos, Kira heard Dalton's voice. "FBI, drop your weapons." Not really FBI, but close enough. Dalton and Jackson had brought backup, 2 other SEALs from Dam Neck who'd answered the call. Men she didn't know, but who wore the same trident. Who'd come because that's what teammates did. Garrett's men were caught in a crossfire now. Kira from inside the office. Dalton's team from the warehouse floor. 8 seconds of violence that felt like eternity. When it ended, 11 of Garrett's men were down, dead or wounded, neutralized. But Garrett himself was gone. Kira burst from the office, saw a service door hanging open, sprinted toward it, ignored Dalton shouting behind her to stop, to wait, to not pursue alone. She was done waiting. The service door led to a parking lot. Garrett was 50 yards ahead, running for a black SUV. He was fast for a big man, but Kira had run 3 miles before this started, had trained endurance until her body was a machine that didn't quit. She closed the distance. Garrett reached the SUV, yanked the door open. Kira raised her sig. Running shot. Difficult, low probability. She took it anyway. The bullet caught Garrett in the leg. He went down, hard. The SUV door slammed on his shoulder as he fell. His phone skittered across the pavement. Kira was on him in seconds. Kicked the phone away, kept her weapon trained on his head. Don't move. Garrett looked up at her. Blood ran from his leg wound. His face was twisted with pain and rage and something else, satisfaction. You won't make it out, he said. The warehouse is rigged. Timer's running. 60 seconds. Kira felt ice in her veins. You're blowing your own facility? Evidence disposal. Can't let FBI find the equipment, the plans, the materials. He smiled through blood-stained teeth. You can shoot me, or you can run. Your choice, Ghost. Where are the bombs? The ones for Saturday? Not here, never were. You think I'd keep them where you could find them? He coughed. They're already in place. Convention center, 3 devices, set to detonate Saturday at 1000 hours, right when your precious reunion starts. Where in the convention center? Somewhere you'll never find them in time, even if you survive the next 40 seconds. Kira grabbed his phone from where it had fallen. The screen was cracked but functional. She saw an app open, a countdown timer. 0037, 0036, 0035. She could kill Garrett, put a bullet in his brain, get revenge for the chemist network, for the threats, for everything. Or she could try to stop the explosion that would kill Dalton and Jackson and 2 other SEALs still inside the warehouse. Or she could take the phone, try to hack the app, find the other bombs. 3 choices, 30 seconds to make one. Syria had taught her that some decisions defined you forever. She made hers. Kira grabbed Garrett's phone and ran. Not toward the warehouse, that was suicide. Toward the perimeter fence, away from the blast radius. Shouting into her concealed radio, Dalton, evacuate now, building's rigged. Behind her, she heard Garrett laughing. Too late, they'll never make it. She didn't look back, focused on the phone screen, the app showing the countdown and 3 other connected devices, all 3 labeled with coordinates, 0019, 0018. She found the building controls. Timer couldn't be stopped, but it could be extended. Her fingers flew across the cracked screen, bypassing password, finding the master control, changing the timer on all 4 devices simultaneously. 0011. She reset them to 24 hours. 1 day, enough time to find the other 3 bombs. The phone confirmed the change. All 4 timers now showed 23, 59, 58, and counting down from there. Behind her, the warehouse didn't explode. Kira stopped running, turned, saw Dalton and Jackson and the other 2 SEALs stumbling out of the building, weapons ready, looking for the threat, looking for her. She walked back toward them, holding the phone up. I've got his phone, she called, and the locations of 3 bombs hidden at the convention center. Dalton reached her first, grabbed her shoulders. You okay? Better than Garrett. She pointed at the wounded man still lying beside his SUV. He needs medical attention and FBI custody. Jackson was already on his phone, calling it in. FBI's going to want this whole site. Sirens in the distance, growing louder. Someone had reported the gunfire. Or maybe Dalton had called earlier. Either way, law enforcement was coming. Kira looked at Garrett's phone. At the coordinates for the 3 remaining bombs. at the timer counting down from 24 hours. "We have until tomorrow to find them," she said. "We'll find them," Dalton said. His voice carried absolute certainty. "FBI is going to lock down that convention center like Fort Knox. We'll sweep every inch. And if we miss one, we won't." Kira wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that the system would work, that the good guys would win because that's how it was supposed to work. But Syria had taught her that sometimes the system failed. Sometimes 14 hostages died, even when you made the right tactical decision. Sometimes the only certainty was that nothing was certain. Police cars screamed into the parking lot. FBI followed 30 seconds later. Agent William Thorne stepped out of a black SUV, took in the scene with the practiced eye of someone who'd cleaned up after special operations going kinetic more times than he could count. "Lieutenant Brennan," he said, "you want to tell me what happened here?" "Garrett Harlow confessed to planning a terrorist attack on the SEAL Team 6 reunion," Kira said. "3 bombs, convention center, set to detonate tomorrow morning during the event." She handed him the phone. "Coordinates are on there. You have 24 hours to find them." Thorne looked at the phone, at Garrett being treated by paramedics under armed guard, at the 11 bodies being carried out of the warehouse, at the 4 SEALs standing together, battered and bloody, but alive. "This is going to be a hell of a report," he said. "Make it a good one," Kira said, "because I'm not done yet." FBI Field Office, 20 hours later, 6 o'clock, hours Monday. The FBI field office in Virginia Beach smelled like burnt coffee and bureaucratic urgency. Kira sat in a conference room on the 3rd floor, watching through the window as the sun rose over the city. 20 hours since the warehouse. 20 hours since she'd reset Garrett Harlow's timers and bought them all an extra day to live. 4 hours left until the bombs detonated. Agent William Thorne stood at the head of the conference table, his tie loosened, his face showing the strain of a man who'd slept maybe 90 minutes in the past day. Around the table sat representatives from FBI, ATF, Homeland Security, and Naval Criminal Investigative Service. Dalton and Jackson sat beside Kira, still technically on leave, but nobody was questioning their presence anymore. "Update," Thorne said, his voice hoarse. "EOD teams have swept the convention center 3 times. We found nothing." "The coordinates from Harlow's phone," Kira asked, "led to 3 locations within the building: loading dock, main assembly hall, underground parking. We tore those areas apart, brought in dogs, brought in ground-penetrating radar. Nothing." Kira felt frustration building in her chest like pressure. The bombs are there. Garrett wouldn't lie about that. It's his leverage. "Maybe the coordinates were decoys," suggested a Homeland Security analyst. "Young guy, probably never been shot at in his life. Make us focus on the wrong areas while the real devices are somewhere else." "Or someone moved them after Garrett was captured," Jackson said. "He had a network, cell structure. Maybe they relocated the devices once they knew he was compromised." Thorne rubbed his eyes. "We've arrested 14 people connected to Sentinel Solutions in the past 18 hours, including Trent Harlow and his crew for their roles in surveillance and intimidation. Everyone's lawyering up. Nobody's talking." "What about the Syrian nationals?" Kira asked. "The ones Garrett was working with?" "Gone. Disappeared. We think they fled the country as soon as they heard about the warehouse raid." The door opened. A woman in an FBI windbreaker entered, carrying a tablet. "Sir, we got something from Harlow's phone." Thorne straightened. "What?" "Encrypted messages. Our tech team just cracked them. Communications between Harlow and someone using the handle Architect. They were discussing the placement of what they called packages." She set the tablet on the table, swiped through several screens of text. Kira leaned forward, reading. "Architect. Packages delivered. Installation complete. Timers synchronized." Harlow. "Confirmation on shielding?" Architect. "Full RF shielding. Metal enclosures. Your scanners won't find them." Harlow. "Good. Ghost will learn what happens when you interfere with our business. Kira's blood ran cold. RF shielding, radio frequency shielding. That's why the sweeps hadn't found anything. The bombs were wrapped in metal that blocked electronic signatures, made them invisible to the detection equipment. They knew we'd be looking, she said. Planned for it, which means we need a different approach, Dalton said. He stood, moved to a whiteboard mounted on the wall. Forget the electronic sweeps. Think tactically. If you were placing 3 bombs for maximum casualties, where would you put them? Main assembly hall, the Homeland Security analyst said. Highest concentration of targets. Too obvious, Jackson countered. Security's tightest there. Hard to place a device without being seen. Kira closed her eyes, visualizing the convention center. She'd been there twice before for Navy functions. Knew the layout, knew the flow of people, knew where vulnerabilities existed. Structure, she said, opening her eyes. You don't put bombs where people are. You put them where they'll bring down the building. Maximum casualties through collapse, not just explosion. Dalton nodded slowly. Load-bearing supports, foundation pillars. The underground parking, Kira said, not just anywhere in the parking garage. The supports directly beneath the main hall. Thorne grabbed his phone. I'm getting EOD back to the garage. Focus on structural columns. Wait, Kira said. There's something else in those messages. Garrett mentioned me specifically. Ghost will learn. This isn't just about the reunion. It's personal. She looked at the messages again, reading between the lines. Architect, what about the primary target? Harlow, she'll be there. I'll make sure of it. Architect, and if she doesn't come? Harlow, she will. She won't be able to help herself. It's what operators like her do. Kira felt understanding dawn like ice water in her veins. He wanted me at the reunion. That's why he gave me 48 hours to leave town. He knew I wouldn't, knew I'd investigate, knew I'd figure out about the attack. Why? Thorne asked. Because he wants me to die there, specifically there, in front of my entire community. Kira stood, paced to the window. It's not enough for me to die. I have to die trying to save people, die failing, just like Syria. The room was silent. That's psychologically sophisticated, the Homeland Security analyst said quietly. That's personal, Dalton corrected. Garrett's not just following orders. He's orchestrating something that destroys Kira's legacy along with her life. Jackson leaned forward. If he wants Kira there specifically, maybe that's our advantage. Maybe we use that. How? Thorne asked. The bombs are on timers, right? Set to go off at 1000 hours during the reunion opening ceremony. According to the phone, yes. But what if there's a backup trigger? Jackson said. Something Garrett didn't tell us about. Something that requires confirmation before detonation. Kira understood where he was going. A dead man's switch. Not on Garrett himself, but on the operation. Someone has to send a signal that the targets are in place, that I'm there. Which means someone's watching, Dalton said. Someone from Garrett's network is going to be at or near the convention center this morning, waiting to confirm Ghost is inside before giving the final go-ahead. Thorne pulled out his phone. I'll get surveillance teams positioned around the entire perimeter. Anyone suspicious, we grab them. No, Kira said. All eyes turned to her. You grab them, and whoever's on the other end knows something's wrong. They might detonate early, or abort and try again later. So what do you suggest? Kira looked at Dalton, then Jackson, saw in their eyes that they knew what she was about to propose, knew they wouldn't like it, knew they'd back her anyway because that's what teammates did. I go to the reunion, Kira said, publicly, make sure whoever's watching sees me enter the building. Then we let them think everything's going according to plan. You want to use yourself as bait, Thorne said. Again, I want to use myself as confirmation. Once they see me inside, once they send the signal that everything's ready, we track that signal back to its source. Find the person controlling the dead man's switch. Neutralize them. And the bombs? EOD finds them in the meantime. You've got 4 hours. Focus on those structural supports in the underground garage. Tear them apart if you have to." Thorne looked around the table. Nobody spoke against the plan. Nobody had a better one. "All right," he said, "but we do this by the book. Kira goes in wired. Full tactical team on standby. First sign of trouble, we evacuate and damn the consequences." "Agreed," Kira said. "And Kira," Thorne's voice was softer now, "if this goes wrong, if we don't find those bombs in time, then at least I'll die doing my job," Kira said. "That's better than dying with regrets." They spent the next hour planning. Kira would wear civilian clothes but carry concealed communications gear. FBI surveillance teams would position around the convention center in unmarked vehicles. EOD would continue systematic search of the underground garage, now focusing specifically on structural supports. NCIS would coordinate with convention center security to quietly evacuate non-essential staff without alerting whoever was watching. At 800 hours, Kira went back to her cottage briefly. Echo was restless, pacing. Dr. Grant had stopped by earlier. The dog was close to labor, but not quite there yet. "Hey girl," Kira said, kneeling. "I have to go out, but I'll be back. I promise." The dog pressed against her leg, trusting, believing. Kira hoped she could keep that promise. She changed into jeans and a button-down shirt, checked the concealed communications gear the FBI tech had given her, earpiece nearly invisible, microphone built into her watch, panic button disguised as a fitness tracker. Her phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Robert. "Thinking about you today. Stay safe." She texted back, "Always do. Love you." At 8:30 hours, Dalton picked her up. Jackson was in the passenger seat. They drove toward the convention center in silence. The building looked innocuous in the morning light. Modern architecture, glass and steel. American flags flanking the main entrance. In 90 minutes, 300 SEALs and their families would gather here to celebrate 50 years of the Navy's most elite unit. Unless Kira and her team failed, then it would become a tomb. "EOD found something," Dalton said, breaking the silence. "2 devices in the underground garage, exactly where you said they'd be, attached to load-bearing columns with industrial adhesive, both wrapped in steel enclosures to block detection." "2 devices," Kira said. "Garrett mentioned 3. They're still looking for the 3rd. How long to disarm the first 2? 3 hours minimum. These things are sophisticated, military grade. Wrong move, and they detonate." Jackson checked his watch. "It's 0845. Reunion starts at 1000. That gives EOD until 0945 before we have to make the call to evacuate." "What about the signal?" Kira asked. "Any trace on who's supposed to confirm I'm inside?" "FBI's monitoring all cellular and radio traffic in a 2-mile radius," Dalton said. "They've got signal intelligence teams ready to triangulate the source the moment someone transmits." They parked 3 blocks away, walked to the convention center on foot. FBI surveillance teams were already in place. Kira spotted at least 4 vehicles, probably twice that many she didn't see. Thorne was running this operation with the full weight of federal resources. If it went wrong, it wouldn't be for lack of trying. At the entrance, Kira paused, looked up at the building. Somewhere inside, or somewhere nearby, someone was watching, waiting to see if she'd show, waiting to send the signal that would end hundreds of lives. "I'm going in," she said. "We'll be right here," Dalton said. He handed her a small device that looked like a fitness tracker. "Panic button. 1 press, and we come running." "Let's hope I don't need it." Kira walked through the main entrance. Security was tight, metal detectors, bag checks, credentials verification. But she wasn't carrying weapons, wasn't trying to sneak anything in. She was the weapon. Her presence was the trigger. Inside, the main assembly hall was already being set up. Rows of chairs, a stage with podium, screens showing historical footage of SEAL operations. Everything ready for a celebration that might never happen. Kira walked to the center of the hall, stood there, made herself visible to anyone who might be watching through security cameras or windows, or whatever surveillance Garrett's network had established. "I'm here," she thought. "Come and get me." Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Welcome, Ghost. Right on time." Kira's pulse spiked. She texted back, "Who is this?" "The architect. Garrett told you about me." "Where are you?" "Watching. Always watching. You walked right into our trap, just like Garrett said you would. Operators like you can't help yourselves. Can't let others die to save your own life." Kira's jaw tightened. She texted, "The bombs are being disarmed right now. You've lost." "Have we? Did you find all three?" Her blood ran cold. The third bomb. EOD still hadn't located it. "Where's the third device?" "Closer than you think. Much closer." Kira looked around the assembly hall. Empty chairs. Empty stage. Nothing that looked suspicious. But that didn't mean anything. If the first two bombs were hidden in structural supports, the third could be anywhere. She hit the panic button, spoke into her concealed microphone. "Architect is texting me. He's confirmed 3 devices. EOD needs to find the third one now." Thorne's voice came back through her earpiece. "Copy. EOD is expanding search to the entire ground floor." The architect texted again. "You're wondering where the third bomb is. Let me give you a hint. It's not in the building." Kira felt ice in her veins. "Not in the building? Then where?" She ran for the exit, through the main doors, out into the morning sunlight. "Dalton!" she shouted. "The third bomb's not inside." He was moving before she finished speaking, Jackson right behind him. They converged on Kira at the entrance plaza. "Where?" Dalton demanded. "I don't know." Architect said, "Closer than I think." "What's close to the convention center that could cause mass casualties?" Jackson pulled out his phone, brought up a map. "Parking structures, both sides of the building. If a truck bomb goes off in either one during the event..." "No," Kira said. Something was wrong. The architect had said, "Closer than she thought. Personal." Garrett had made this whole operation personal. She looked at the vehicles parked nearby. FBI surveillance teams. Unmarked sedans. Civilian cars. All checked and cleared by security. Then she saw it. 3 blocks away. Right where they'd parked. Dalton's truck. "When did you last use your truck?" Kira asked. "This morning. Picked you up at 08:30. "And before that?" "Yesterday evening. Why?" Kira was already running. "Because Garrett's people knew you'd be involved, knew you'd help me. They could have planted a device on your vehicle while we were at the FBI office yesterday." She reached the truck, dropped to her knees, looked underneath the chassis. There, magnetic clamp, metal box, exactly like the ones EOD had found in the garage. "Found it," she said into her mic. "Vehicle-borne IED, Dalton's truck, 3 blocks west of the convention center." EOD teams were moving. Kira heard sirens, saw bomb squad vehicles racing toward their location. The area was being evacuated, civilians running, police establishing a perimeter. But the bomb squad was 4 minutes away, and Kira's phone was buzzing with another text from the architect. "You found it. Impressive. But it doesn't matter. Timer's already counting down. 2 minutes. Not enough time to disarm. Not enough time to evacuate. You're going to watch people die again, Ghost." Just like Syria. Kira looked at the device. Military grade, sophisticated, probably 50 pounds of C4. Enough to level everything within 100 yards. The convention center was 200 yards away, safe from the blast. But the civilians on this street, at least 40 people, running, panicking, not fast enough. "We need to move this truck," Kira said. "No time," Jackson said. He was reading the timer on the device. 1 minute 30. Even if we could drive it, we wouldn't get far enough away. "Then we get it as far as we can." Dalton grabbed her arm. "Kira, no, that's suicide. Those people die if we don't move it. Then they die. You don't throw your life away for what?" For civilians? For people who don't carry a trident? Kira pulled her arm free. That's exactly what I throw my life away for. That's the job. She climbed into the driver's seat. The keys were in Dalton's pocket, but she didn't need keys. Basic hot wiring. Every SEAL learned it. She had the engine running in 12 seconds. Kira, God damn it! Dalton was yelling, but she couldn't hear the rest. She threw the truck into gear, punched the accelerator. The street blurred. She drove away from the civilians, away from the convention center, toward the empty industrial area 2 miles east, toward the abandoned warehouses where nobody worked on Monday morning. The timer showed 45 seconds. She pushed the truck to 60 miles per hour. The device underneath rattled, unstable, could detonate early, could detonate now. Every second was borrowed time, 30 seconds. The industrial district appeared ahead. Empty parking lots, abandoned buildings, nothing living, nothing that could bleed. 20 seconds. She aimed the truck toward the largest empty space she could see, a vacant lot surrounded by concrete barriers, far from any structure, far from any life. 15 seconds. Kira hit the brakes. The truck skidded. She threw open the door, jumped, landed hard on pavement, rolled, felt skin tear from her palms and elbows, didn't stop rolling. 10 seconds. She got to her feet, ran away from the truck, away from 50 pounds of military explosives. Her lungs burned, her legs screamed. She ran anyway. 5 seconds. She dove behind a concrete barrier, covered her head, pressed herself against the ground, prayed to whatever God protected fools and seals. The world turned white and loud. The explosion lifted her off the ground despite the barrier, slammed her back down, drove the air from her lungs, filled her ears with ringing that drowned out everything else. Then silence. Not real silence, just the absence of hearing. The ringing would fade over the next few days, the doctors would tell her later. Partial hearing loss in her left ear. Permanent. A small price for 40 lives saved. She pushed herself up, every muscle protesting. Look back at where Dalton's truck had been. A crater, 30 feet across, smoking. The truck was gone, vaporized, scattered across 200 yards of industrial wasteland. But the civilians were safe. The convention center was safe. 40 people who would have died were still breathing because she'd chosen to act instead of waiting for permission. Just like Syria. Except this time her unauthorized action saved lives instead of ending them. Hands grabbed her, lifted her. Dalton and Jackson, their mouths moving, but she couldn't hear them. She pointed to her ears, shook her head. Dalton pulled out his phone, typed, "You okay?" Kira nodded, took the phone, typed back, "Did we get him?" Dalton showed her another message. From Thorne. "Signal traced, architect located, FBI moving to arrest now." Relief hit her like a wave. They'd done it, found the bombs, stopped the attack, saved 300 SEALs and their families from dying in what would have been the worst terrorist attack on American soil since 9/11. And all it had cost was Dalton's truck and Kira's hearing in one ear. Paramedics were arriving, trying to check her for injuries. She waved them off, pulled out her own phone, texted Thorne, "Where was the architect?" His response came quickly. "Convention center parking garage, security guard uniform. Been working there 3 weeks, deep cover. We got him." Kira closed her eyes. 3 weeks. Garrett's network had been planning this for at least that long, maybe longer. Professional, patient, willing to play the long game. She thought about the chemist, about Garrett's promise of revenge, about how terrorism wasn't about sudden strikes anymore, but about careful orchestration designed to hurt the most people in the most devastating way possible. She thought about how close they'd come to failing. She thought about that Syrian compound, the decision, the aftermath, 4 months that felt like forever. And for the first time since she'd taken that shot, she didn't feel the crushing weight of guilt. didn't see 14 faces blinking out, didn't hear the echo of that explosion that had haunted her dreams. She felt something else, something she hadn't felt since that night in the Syrian desert. She felt like an operator who'd made the right call. Dalton helped her to her feet, wrapped his arm around her shoulders, Jackson on her other side. The three of them walked back toward the convention center together. Behind them, emergency vehicles swarmed the crater. Ahead, FBI agents were leading the architect out in handcuffs. A man in his 30s, Syrian national, security guard uniform. Thorne met them halfway. "We got him, and EOD just disarmed the last device in the garage. All three bombs neutralized." Kira nodded, pulled out her phone, texted her mother in Florida. "It's over. You're safe. I'm okay. Love you." The response came within seconds. "I never doubted you, sweetheart. Your father would be so proud." Kira closed her eyes, let herself feel the relief for just a moment before the next crisis demanded her attention. 1 week later, the FBI took over after that, arrested 17 people connected to the plot, including every member of Trent Harlow's crew. Garrett Harlow was charged with domestic terrorism, conspiracy to commit murder, and about 40 other felonies that would keep him in federal prison until he was ancient. The architect, real name Ahmad Farsi, Syrian national with forged documents, gave up everything in exchange for life in prison instead of execution. The chemist's entire remaining network was rolled up within 72 hours. The SEAL reunion was postponed by 1 week. When it finally happened, every operator in attendance knew what had almost occurred, knew that 3 of their own had stopped it, knew that Lieutenant Kiera Brennan had driven a truck bomb away from civilians despite having every reason to walk away and let someone else handle it. They knew, but they didn't talk about it. That wasn't how SEALs operated. You did the job. You saved lives. You went home. The only reward was knowing you'd done it right. 1 week after the bombing, Kira sat in a Navy Review Board hearing. 5 senior officers, a lawyer from JAG, a civilian representative from the Inspector General's office, all there to determine if her actions in Syria warranted continued service or discharge. She'd prepared a statement, practiced it, knew exactly what to say, but when they asked her to explain her decision to take that shot, she told them the truth instead. "I made a tactical decision based on incomplete information," Kira said. "I saw a threat that required immediate action. I took that action. 14 people died as a result. That's on me. I own it." The board members exchanged glances. The lawyer made notes. "But I'd make the same decision again," Kira continued, "because the alternative was waiting, hoping for better intelligence, hoping the situation would resolve itself. And hope isn't a strategy. Action is. Sometimes you make the hard call and it goes wrong. Sometimes you make the hard call and it goes right. But making no call at all guarantees nothing, except that you'll wonder forever what would have happened if you'd had the courage to act." The room was silent. The senior-most officer, a captain with 30 years in the teams, leaned forward. "Lieutenant Brennan, this board has reviewed your service record. Reviewer, the Syria incident. Reviewed your actions last week preventing a domestic terror attack. We've also reviewed testimony from Senior Chief Wyatt, who was your spotter in Syria." Kira's chest tightened. Dalton hadn't told her he was testifying. "Senior Chief Wyatt stated that he gave you an order to hold fire. You disobeyed that order. He also stated that in his professional opinion, based on 20 years of combat experience, your tactical assessment was sound. The intelligence failure was not yours. The dead man's switch was not something you could have anticipated. And the decision to take the shot was, quote, exactly what I would have done in her position, end quote." The captain paused, looked at the other board members. They nodded. "This board finds that while your actions in Syria violated protocol, they were within the acceptable parameters of operational decision-making under combat conditions. The outcome was tragic, but the intent was sound, and your actions since then demonstrate that you continue to embody the values we expect from naval special warfare operators. Kira felt something loosen in her chest, something that had been clenched tight for 4 months. You are hereby cleared of all charges and reinstated to full active duty status, the captain said. Additionally, for your actions preventing the convention center attack, you are awarded the Silver Star for gallantry in action. The hearing ended. Kira walked out into the Virginia sunshine. Dalton was waiting outside, leaning against a rental car, since his truck was currently scattered across an industrial district. Heard you got cleared, he said. Heard you testified. Had to. You made the right call in Syria. Board needed to know that. Even though 14 people died? Even though. Dalton straightened. War's messy, Ghost. We make decisions with incomplete information and live with the consequences. You did your job. Sometimes the job has a cost. They stood in silence for a moment. Two operators who'd seen the dark side of warfare and come back changed, but unbroken. What now? Dalton asked. Now I go home, Kira said. Check on Echo. She's due any day now. And after that? After that, I get back to work. DevGrew's got a new deployment cycle starting next month. I'm going to be on it. You sure? After everything? Kira thought about Syria, about Virginia, about all the decisions she'd made and the weight of carrying them. Thought about 47 confirmed kills and the number that would eventually become 48, 49, 50. Thought about the moment she'd climbed into that truck with a bomb underneath, knowing she might die, knowing it was the right thing to do anyway. I'm sure, she said. This is who I am. This is what I do. I'm a SEAL. I take the shots nobody else wants to take, and I live with the consequences, even when the consequences hurt, especially then. She drove back to her cottage, found Dr. Grant's car in the driveway, found the vet inside with Echo, who was in the middle of labor. You've got excellent timing, Dr. Grant said. First puppy came 20 minutes ago. 5 more to go. Kira knelt beside the whelping box, watched Echo work through the ancient process of bringing life into the world. Watched the puppies, tiny, blind, helpless, take their first breaths. Life finding a way despite violence, despite darkness, despite everything. Over the next 4 hours, Echo delivered 6 healthy puppies, 3 males, 3 females, all vigorous, all nursing strongly, all alive because Kira had opened her door to a terrified pregnant dog being chased by men who enjoyed cruelty. You're going to keep her? Dr. Grant asked. Kira looked at Echo, exhausted but content, surrounded by her puppies. Looked at the life she'd saved and the lives that had come from saving it. Yeah, Kira said, I'm keeping her. What about when you deploy? Dalton said he'd take care of her. He's adopting one of the puppies anyway, naming it Overwatch. Dr. Grant smiled. That man's softer than he looks. We all are, Kira said. We just hide it better. 3 months later, Kira stood on a rifle range at Dam Neck. New SEAL candidates watched from behind the firing line as she set up for a demonstration shot. 1,000 yards, target barely visible to the naked eye, wind gusting, temperature dropping, all the variables that made long-range precision shooting more art than science. A young SEAL, couldn't be more than 23, approached nervously. Ma'am, can I ask you something? Shoot, Kira said, then smiled at the unintended pun. What's your question? They told us about Syria, about the shot you took, about what happened. Kira's smile faded. And? How do you deal with it, knowing that your decision cost lives? Kira looked at the young SEAL, saw herself at that age, confident, certain, believing that skill and training could overcome any obstacle. Not yet understanding that the hardest part of being a warrior wasn't pulling the trigger. It was living with the aftermath. You don't deal with it, she said. You carry it. Every day, every night. It becomes part of who you are. The weight of command, the weight of decisions, the weight of consequences you can't undo. Then why keep doing it? Because the alternative is worse. The alternative is standing by while others die because you're afraid to act, afraid to make the call, afraid to live with the cost. She picked up her rifle. We're not superheroes, we're operators. We make imperfect decisions in impossible situations. Sometimes we get it right, sometimes we get it wrong, but we always act, because that's the job. She settled into position, pressed her cheek against the stock, found the target through her scope, breathed, aimed, squeezed. The rifle spoke. 1,000 yards downrange, the target shuddered. Center mass, perfect shot. The young SEAL stared. How do you make it look so easy? Practice, Kira said, turning her head slightly to catch his words with her good ear. And accepting that easy isn't the point, necessary is. She stood, handed the rifle to the instructor, walked away from the range toward the parking lot where Echo waited in her car. Puppies all adopted out to good homes, life continuing despite the scars and the memories and the weight of 47 confirmed kills that had become 49 during her last deployment. Her phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Robert. Proud of you, kid. Your dad would be too. Kira looked at the message, thought about her father, Commander James Mitchell, Navy SEAL, died in Grenada when she was 2 years old, fighting to protect people he'd never met, in a country most Americans couldn't find on a map. She texted back, I hope so. I'm trying. She got in her car. Echo's head appeared over the center console, tongue lolling, happy to see her. Kira scratched behind the dog's ears. Ready to go home, girl? Echo's tail wagged. Home. The word had shifted meaning over the years. Montana, bases worldwide, forward operating positions. But now she understood its true definition. Home was the choice to stand at the door when something helpless scratched for sanctuary. Home was the decision to take the shot even when ordered to wait, because waiting meant death. Home was climbing into a truck with a bomb underneath, because 40 strangers deserve to live more than you deserve to play it safe. Home was the accumulated weight of every hard decision, every impossible choice, every moment when you had to decide who you were and what you stood for. And Kiera Brennan, Lieutenant, United States Navy, SEAL Team 6, 49 confirmed kills, Silver Star, Navy Cross, and more scars than she could count, knew exactly who she was. She was the ghost. She was the operator who took the shots nobody else wanted to take. She was the warrior who carried the weight so others didn't have to. And when the pregnant dog came scratching at her door with bullies chasing behind, she'd open that door without hesitation, without calculation, without weighing the cost, because that's what ghosts did. They protected those who couldn't protect themselves, even when it cost everything. Especially then. The sun set over Virginia Beach as Kira drove home. Echo slept in the passenger seat. The city lights began to glow. Somewhere out there, other operators were training. Other threats were emerging. Other hard decisions were waiting to be made. But for now, in this moment, driving through the gathering dark with a rescued dog and a clear conscience, and the certain knowledge that she'd done her job. For now, Kira Brennan was at peace. And for a warrior, peace was the rarest victory of all.